Okay, so welcome everyone. My name is Olivia McCuskey and I'm with the Education Alliance. The Education Alliance exists to mobilize business and community support for public schools. We are very passionate about helping all students build career awareness and be ready for future success. And one of the ways we do that is by partnering with schools and businesses to provide this work-based learning job shadow training module that we are facilitating with you today. So I'm very excited to welcome Ashley King and Beth Nesselrote at Stonerise Health. They will be speaking with us today about careers in healthcare and providing us with some different career pathway options that you may have not already considered in healthcare. And so quick outline of today's module. The first 10 to 15 minutes, we will learn about the healthcare industry, as well as the types of careers that Stonerise Health has available for you. We will have some Q&A. And then the final 10 to 15 minutes, we will do a skill surrounding, just different skills you need in the healthcare world. And then they're going to do some bingo with you at the end. And then we will leave some time for Q&A to close us out. So with that, I will turn it over to Ashley and Beth. And Ashley and Beth, we have Nitro High School joining us today.
Well, hello, Nitro High School. Thank you all for this opportunity. And thank you, Olivia. So Beth and I are going to talk to you about we're sunsetting our name, and we'll talk a little bit more in detail about that through the presentation of Stonerise. And we are have become part of the family of companies under Communicare Healthcare. So I'm Ashley King. I am the Director of HR and Payroll Services. I started with Stonerise in December of 2021, and then our company was purchased by Communicare in July. And so I've been here just a little over 15 months. Prior to coming to Stonerise and Communicare, I worked as an HR professional in various positions at Charleston Area Medical Center. I spent 20 years there. So that's what's considered acute care. I have a bachelor's degree in human resources and industrial relations, a master's degree in human resources and industrial relations. Obviously, I'm passionate about it. And I have a certification as a professional human resources. So that's just a little bit about my background. I really appreciate the opportunity to connect with students and younger members of our community, just to increase the awareness of healthcare careers and just the importance of kind of making plans and preparations and exposing individuals to careers outside of what is the traditional healthcare careers, such as nursing, and just really giving them an opportunity to kind of get in the weeds of what the positions are that are available in healthcare. So my co-host today is Beth Nesselrote, so I'll let her introduce herself.
Well, hello, Nitro High School. So good to have you today, and we're so honored to be a part of your class there today. Again, my name is Beth Nesselrote. I have been in HR for a very, very long time. I started in the temporary help business, which means we would find people to go and work jobs on a temporary basis. So I worked in that field for quite some time, and then ended up going to work for one of our clients in their HR department. So it's always good to make good connections. Always remember that wherever you are, it might count for the future. So I worked in that temporary help business, and then met contacts at a very nice company here in Charleston, Columbia Gas, and was able to get a full-time job working for Columbia Gas. I was there for over 20 years, and then stayed in oil and gas and went to a different company, but stayed there for a number of years. And so I have many years. I have almost 30 years in human resources at this point. And so now I find myself in healthcare, very different from oil and gas, but it shows where, with an HR degree, you can do a lot of different things. You can work in a lot of different industries. So I would highly recommend it as a field you might find interesting. So I have been with Stonerise / Communicare for 7 years now. And very happy to say that after all these many years, this is where you'll end, and that is retirement. And I will be retiring this summer. I've made that announcement here, and we'll be retiring in July to spend more time with my family. So that's what you have to look forward to many years down the road. Just always participate in 401k so you can. That's my piece of advice for the day. It's nice to meet you all. How many people do we have, by the way, in the class?
It's only a class of 6, but we have 5 here today.
Okay.
So,
All right.
Perfect. So everyone should have received a bingo card. And so we're gonna play a game of bingo, because bingo is associated with long-term care. We always hear about residents playing bingo and all the different activities to keep them engaged. So we thought this would be a good opportunity to play bingo while learning. So we just populated various words that we will use throughout the presentation. So when you see that word, mark it off your bingo card. And then if the teacher will note who our first bingo person is, we'll check that out at the end and just go through all the words that you marked off, and maybe we'll provide a definition and maybe have a conversation around it. And then we have some prizes probably that we'll send out in the next couple of days. But I do have one correction, and this is just notorious for me. I'm a bad speller. Just saying, I put it out there. I don't try to hide it. So if you have a bingo card that has the abbreviation OFHLAC, mark through that and put OHLFAC.
No.
Office of Health Facility Licensure Certification.
OHFL.
FL. See, I can't. OHFLAC. Oh my gosh. So if you can make that correction on your card.
Ashley actually dressed up as a spelling bee for Halloween.
Yeah, because I'm just horrible. But that doesn't mean you can't be successful in life if you can't spell. So so just talk a little bit about long-term care. I'm sure many of you all have known somebody, a family member, a friend, a neighbor that has been in long-term care, skilled nursing. There's several different names that, kind of are used interchangeably with long-term care versus saying a nursing home. You'll hear it's skilled nursing, but really this is post-acute care. It's once somebody typically is transitioning from an acute care setting, which is like a hospital. They get them to the point where they're stable, and then they move them to a long-term care or skilled nursing. And that's so that their basic life activities can be sustained. They may need help with, feeding themselves or medication, but long-term care is more than just that. It is also social needs as well. So having that sense of community and support and engagement is really critical to the well-being of our residents and patients. So, some of you may have even volunteered or, been part of a civic group that has went into nursing homes. So they really thrive on having visitors and guests come in and share with them. And they really form special bonds and relationships with their care team and those that work in the centers. So, you'll hear us talk about the culture of the center or the organization and the core values. And that's what really translates into a very positive patient experience and family experience, because not only are employees within a long-term care center caring for that specific patient, but typically the family is very involved as well, and grow very important and long-term relationships. I specifically have a personal experience. I had a grandmother that was in a memory care unit for about 7 years, and a memory care unit really focuses on obviously memory care. So that's your dementia, Alzheimer's patients. Sometimes there's security risk where they could escape and things like that. So to ensure their well-being and safety, it's typically a locked unit. So, I have formed relationships with members of her care team that I continue to interact with because, we had such a special relationship and they formed such a special relationship with my grandmother with the care that they provided. So it's really important to have those interpersonal relationship skills in addition to, the clinical skills as well. One thing that's really important is that there's strict regulatory compliance within long-term care. Same thing in acute care, hospitals and things like that. So there's regulatory agencies and boards that provide guidance and direction of how to operate facilities to ensure compliance of safety and regulations, that you have staff members that have the proper certification and license, that billing is done correctly. So it's a whole host of things, not necessarily just clinical. So we work in long-term care with OFLAC, and that is the Office of Health Facility License and Certification. They do regulatory surveys once a year, but if there's an event that occurs that's a safety event or some form of complaint, they'll come in and do an investigation as well. CMS, and that's for the Centers of Medicaid and Medicare. And that has a lot to do with billing and things like that, but then also the quality of care that is being provided and has a relationship with the reimbursement. We also have other guidelines that fall under CMS, specifically like the COVID vaccine. For those of us that work in long-term care, post-acute and acute care, there's a regulation that you have to be vaccinated or have an approved exemption. So we have to make sure that we stay up to date with all these regulatory compliance standards and expectations to ensure that we receive the highest level of reimbursement for the care that we are providing. So that's really important. We have individuals, that's what their sole responsibility is ensuring that our billing and quality is up to expectations to ensure that we get that maximum reimbursement. So just to provide a little information about Stonerise. So like I said in the beginning, we are sunsetting our name of Stonerise and we are going to be Communicare Healthcare. But Stonerise was founded by Larry Pack and Steve White in 2009, both locally from Charleston. And Stonerise was formed through a series of acquisitions. And at this point of sale of Stonerise, we had 17 centers or transitional care centers. But not only did we just have healthcare, but we also had therapy, and therapy includes physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and those are either done in the center. We have a lot of centers that have units that are specifically focused on skilled nursing, and that is more of a short-term type stint at a nursing home or a transitional care facility. So maybe you had a family member that had a knee replacement and they need more in-depth therapy, or maybe they have other health problems that may complicate the recovery. So you go to an inpatient rehab type facility. So most of our centers do have a therapy gym where we employ physical therapists, occupational therapists, and speech therapists. We also have home health. So if individuals are in need of therapy, but not, an inpatient therapy, we have therapists that go out and provide those type of services, as well as hospice. So we just kind of have that continuum of service based upon the patient needs, from the point of, the beginning of them transitioning with some type of maybe acute health problem or recovery. And so we can care for those who are here temporarily, permanent, and then through end of life. We have centers that cover really a large portion of the state. You can see a map here. We have centers that cover, the north, south, east, and west of West Virginia. And we are continuing to grow with the acquisition of Stonerise. So this picture always makes me smile. You can see the joy within this patient just by looking at her, the excitement. I tell myself a story every time I see this picture. I feel like she's sitting around with her friends, maybe in an activity and they're playing a game or doing some exercise, but she's happy. So that always touches me. And she's happy because of the care that she is receiving, and the interaction she's having with staff members. So at Stonerise, our mission is through love, serve one another. Very simple to remember, and very simple core values that are tied to that mission of love, compassion, patience, courage, and determination. So, when we're transitioning or you have a loved one that's transitioning, living conditions, it's difficult for individuals to transition from being at home in the comfort of their house to what may be, foreign to them being in a skilled nursing facility. So having employees that show love and compassion, patience, courage, and determination, because sometimes getting their acclimation to the new center may be a little bit challenging. So providing that reassurance and security and love is critical to that transition of the patient. Plus, sometimes patients' ability to rationalize and recognize what are true areas of things to be afraid of, or it takes the care and kindness of others to make them feel comfortable. I know with my grandmother, when she was in a long-term care, many times it was, this is your home, you are safe, you are cared for, her needs are being met, and just kind of reassuring them of that. So I mentioned the acquisition. So in the spring of 2022, Stonerise was purchased by a company called Communicare. And an acquisition is, an agreement that both companies come into, that they're saying, I'm going to purchase this organization and their assets and assume responsibility of operations and control of that organization. So the sale of Stonerise was finalized in July of 2022. And so since then, we've continued to kind of transition to a new way of life, which includes so many things, policies and procedures, the mission, vision, values, branding of our organization. So we are excited to kind of really be ramping up in this transition and finalizing it in the next couple of weeks. But some of the things that we will be seeing, and we do have a center here in Charleston, which is actually just located just across the street from our home office, which is called Stonerise Charleston, and it will become Communicare Healthcare Charleston Center. I believe that's what it was. There's a lot of healthcare in there. So we will be changing the branding. We will be sunsetting the logo that you see in the bottom corner of your screen. And we'll have a little bit different look, but it's still going to be providing the same quality of care to our patients and residents. So who is Communicare? Communicare is a company, family owned, just like Stonerise, located in Blue Ash, Ohio. The founder is Steve Rosedale. Communicare is referred to as the family of companies. There are a variety of companies that fall under the umbrella of Communicare. Currently, they have about 110 care centers, and we will add or have added 17. And then they also have independent living, they have therapy, they have long-term acute care hospital. They really have a little bit of everything. They have staffing agency. And what a staffing agency does is when there's critical points in staffing and the center is unable to meet the expectations for staffing, we get help from outside organizations. And so they have a company that's called the Bridgeway Firm that provides support and resources to our centers if they encounter some staffing challenges. With COVID, that's been an opportunity where we've been able to utilize some staffing agencies, just because, you know, a lot of times there are outbreaks and staff members can't be working if they are positive for COVID. They have an ambulance service, just a lot of companies that fall under that umbrella. Their mission, very similar to what our mission was at Stonerise, but their mission is serving with pride. And if you notice, both of them are about serving and taking care of others. So that's really, really important and critical, that employees understand that we are here for our patients and family members. Our values, they spell heart, and you know, that's really important. And we call that kind of the true blue culture, and that's putting the feet to the values that we have. So, you know, we are transitioning, but still the way that we interact with one another and the care that we provide is the same quality of care. And you can see they have businesses and companies in 7 states. So really, you know, the operation is quite large, and it continues to grow and is one of the largest growing or fastest growing long-term care companies currently. So talking about that growth, CommuniCare is continuing to grow here in West Virginia, which is wonderful. They recognize the quality of care that is being provided to our families, our neighbors, and they are continuing to invest in our state. So they are actually purchasing another company here that's Charleston located and locally owned. They're called AMFM. They have probably about 20 long-term care centers as well. And so they are going to be joining the family as well. So that's going to take CommuniCare up to about 155 to 160, long-term care centers. We're excited for AMFM to join the family. Because we've grown so large in the state of West Virginia, we're actually going to have our own division. And we are going to be the CommuniCare West Virginia division, but we'll also cover a couple centers in Pennsylvania as well as West Virginia. So that's real exciting just to see that continued growth of CommuniCare within the state of West Virginia. Plus, it provides opportunities for employment for our residents of West Virginia, plus increases the ability for awareness about healthcare careers, because we have locations once AMFM joins us all over the state of West Virginia, from the Panhandle to the South, from the East and the West. You know, we will cover a significant footprint of the state of West Virginia. One thing, this picture here in the bottom corner, this is our newest and most exciting center. It is Stonerise or CommuniCare Summersville. This was the first center that Stonerise built from the ground up, state-of-the-art center located in Summersville, West Virginia. They actually just opened, it was December. But what we had to do is just transition a few patients, make sure that everything was up and running and we were meeting regulatory compliance. And then the state gave us the go-ahead, OFLAC, to start moving in additional patients. So we've been doing that 6 to 8 at a time until we get to a full census, which is about 90 patients. And what's really unique about this center is they're all private rooms. I mean, it is beautiful. The decorations and the decor is very soothing and calming and just very relaxing for our patients and family members. It has a skilled nursing, meaning the therapy and rehab services. It also has a locked memory unit. And then it has long-term care. Real excited about this opportunity. I was visiting one day and a patient's family member, or excuse me, a family member of someone came through and said, how do I get my relative on the waiting list? So the community has been very supportive of the development of this center and has been anxiously awaiting the opening.
And Ashley and Beth, now might be a good time to pause and see if the students, if y'all have any questions thus far, or, you know, what's something you kind of surprised you about what you've learned about Stonerise and Communicare thus far?
Any questions so far, guys?
How long has it been since you guys have been like growing? Like, because you said that you have a West Virginia division now. How long has it been since you, I guess, been like exponentially growing?
I would say really since the Stonerise company came on board with Communicare. So prior to the acquisition of Stonerise in July 2022, Communicare had 3 centers in the state of West Virginia. So from July 2022, and then the acquisition of AMFM, which is coming on April 1st, they will have grown from 3 centers to and add probably 42 additional centers in the state of West Virginia. So pretty quickly. Now, obviously, this is through acquisition, so it's taking over operations, but it's the representation of Communicare. And what's really great about that is, you know, Communicare is much larger. So operationally speaking, you know, it provides opportunity for advancement. So you could start at a center and work to, you know, a division or regional, which is what Beth and I support, the West Virginia, to corporate, which is, you know, the home office in Blue Ash, who's making all of the operational decisions or implementing different policies, procedures, or programs that then the rest of us push out to all the centers. So the opportunity, the growth of opportunity is what probably has grown so quickly here in the state of West Virginia.
That was a great question. Great question. Great answer. So just with the acquisitions, you're able to grow in your career more. You have definitely more options for that. And Ashley, remind me again, when was Stonerise founded?
In 2009. And it was formed through a series of acquisitions as well. So I can't remember exactly the number. Beth may know how many Stonerise started with. Can you elaborate, Beth?
There were 4 nursing homes that Larry and Steve purchased in 2009. And then every once in a while, they would add 1 or 2 here and there that would come up for sale. It's interesting because a lot of family-owned skilled nursing centers, they'll get to a point where they decide it's time to retire, it's time to sell, they want to go and pursue something else. So they'll contact people like Steve and Larry, Steve White and Larry Pike, to see if they're interested in purchasing their skilled nursing center. And so that's how some of the acquisitions take place. Somebody just calls them out of the blue and says, hey, would you like to buy it? And they buy it, and then they run it. And then in 2014-15, quite a few centers came on board. Then 17, we got 1, and 18, we got 1. So just through the years, we got to 18. But I will say that, you know, once you become a certain size, people look to you because they know you've already figured out how to, you already have policies, you already have standards, you already have a relationship with OFLOC and CMS, and you already know how to run the business. That's why there's a network, and those folks stay in touch, and they become good, fast friends when someone decides to sell. But before that, they were competitors.
Absolutely.
Right before that, they were competitors.
Yeah,
Well,
great point.
We showed in orientation, new employee orientation, why Steve and Larry got into the business of long-term care. And what's funny is Larry Pack's father was the reason. He was in a long-term care memory unit, and, you know, just saw the value that it brings to to the lives of your loved ones. And my grandmother was actually at the same nursing home as Larry's dad. So I got to know him as well. And so it was very meaningful when I came here, just because, you know, of the care that his dad received and my grandmother received the same care, and that they invested in the opportunities to continue to grow that quality of care within Stonerise.
Okay, so I'm going to talk to you about company culture. As you know, culture exists everywhere. We have culture in the United States. There are different cultures throughout the United States, and there are different cultures even throughout the world. And so you take that big world view and you just try to look at it from the place where you spend a lot of time, and that is within your company or your school. And I would venture to say that your school has the same thing: mission, vision, and values. Do you know if your school has mission, vision, and values? Anyone?
They do.
Yeah, I would
Okay.
say that our school's main mission is just to cultivate the best for like the future generations. And I would say that like the values is us as students.
Very good. So see, we all operate, and I guess you would call it kind of some rules of engagement, maybe some standards of how we behave and treat one another. So a company is just like a school. We're trying to do the same thing you are. We have mission, we have vision, and we have values. And I won't go through all of ours, but you get the concept. You have a mission, and everybody has to be on board with that mission. Everybody has to get on the boat. And it's based on a vision. It's where do you want to be? Where are you going? So your mission should get you to your vision, where you want to be. Your values are the way in which you get there. So how you behave, how you treat customers and each other. And so that's really important, because one of the ways that the culture impacts one another is all of the employees that we share the same workspace with. It's really important that we're all in this together, and that we all are heading in the same direction. We all have the same core values that we operate by, so that you can have some, I'll call it sanity within the workplace, within the school, within life. But it touches the people that we serve. The way we treat one another as co-workers definitely impacts the way family members who walk through that front door feel, the residents and the patients who we serve, how they feel, and also the community. Because you know, how you operate and how your culture is described is not just within the walls, but it's outside the walls. If you know of schools that have a bad reputation, you know, everybody seems to know about that. The thing that came to my mind is the burning couches at WVU. Everybody knows about the burning couches. You know, so you get a reputation based on your culture. So it's really important that within the walls that there's the appropriate way to reach your mission and vision, because people are going to spread that by word of mouth. So the way we look at culture, the way we kind of get a temperature for it, is we do what are called employee engagement surveys. So these employee engagement surveys will be a series of questions, and they'll ask things like, do you have friends at work? That's important. If you don't have friends at work, then there's something wrong with the culture. So it's a way for us to assess how people are feeling about how engaged they are, how they feel about working there. Are they happy there? It's really important that they are. And it gives us the tool to reach back out and to do certain things to change that. So if someone says that their supervisor is an issue, it's an anonymous survey. We don't know who the supervisor is, but we know we might need to do more supervisory training, more leadership training to get that balanced. So we also have town hall meetings where people can ask questions. The one thing that you'll know is that if on a town hall call, people are asking about additional microwaves in the break room, or if they're asking about more parking spaces, then you know that your culture's pretty good, because they're not talking about things that are very serious, like workplace violence or hostilities or issues that are undermining what we're trying to accomplish. So that's really important, that we hear those type of questions and what are people talking about. We also do focus group meetings, which will have a smaller group of individuals that will come together in a workspace, and you talk openly about how are things going, what's working for you, what's not working for you, what would you like to see more of, what would you like to see less of. So those kinds of meetings and assessments are really, really important in order to keep your employees happy and engaged in their work and in the workforce. We also do exit interviews. The exit interviews will tell us again, what's the temperature like? How are people feeling about our company? Are they leaving because they're getting better pay somewhere? We need to know that, because we need to know that we need to look at our pay scales. Are they leaving because they're just unhappy because they're not challenged? Then we didn't do a very good job of staying in touch as a supervisor with our employees to make sure that they're feeling challenged, that they're happy. We missed something. So it's really important to assess the culture. Then when we get the culture that we want and we're really moving in the right direction, there are some things that we can do to retain it, sustain it, and move the company culture forward that we desire. So hiring practices. So if you're going to hire someone, one of the things that you should look for is someone who holds the same vision, mission, vision, and values that you do, and that they can buy in to that and to that type of workforce. So you want to look at that. We check references. It's part of how we assess whether or not someone's going to be a good fit for us, is to check their references. So it's really important that even if you have a job at McDonald's right now, or I guess, I don't know if you guys are working yet, but when you do work, that first job is really important. How you treat others, how you treat customers, your work ethic, getting to work on time, making sure that you don't leave, you don't take extra breaks, you're not on your phone when you're not supposed to be, that you show up, show up for work. We have a lot of trouble with that. But you know, just being that good model employee, because somebody's going to call your supervisor and ask them, hey, would you recommend Joey for this job that we have here? He's interviewed for it. We like him, but tell us more about him. And they will. So it's really important that you never think of a job as one that someone won't reach out. The other thing that happens is you may think, well, I just won't put him on my resume as a reference. Well, guess what? A lot of people know a lot of people, and in West Virginia, it's small, so people just know one another. So always remember that your reputation is important as well. So we try to do the right thing in hiring. During the onboarding process, we try to make sure that people know what to expect when they're coming to work here. So if we're going to onboard someone, we want to make sure that if they're a CNA, a certified nursing assistant, that they know where to go to get the tools that they need to work with. If it's a lift, if it's a Hoyer lift, and they need, we got to tell them when they're onboarding where those pieces of equipment are so that they won't be lost. Also understanding policies and procedures and benefits and all those things. It's really important that we show them everything and explain everything that we can to them so that they feel like they're informed when they start with us. I remember being in one, it was a negotiation session, and there was a new employee in there. And she said, I got there. She said, I was there for 2 weeks and no one showed me where the linens were. I'm like, That's bad. So she didn't know where to go to get sheets to change beds. So important stuff, right? Performance evaluations every year, folks get performance evaluations. It's always better to get them more often than once a year. So we always would want supervisors to coach throughout the year so that when you get to your performance evaluation, there's no surprises. You've already known throughout the year how you're doing. So that's an important piece of performance evaluation. But remember, you will be, when you're part of the workforce, you will get performance evaluations. What would someone guess that's an equivalent to in school? Does anybody have a guess?
A test? I would say just like a learning check or a test would be the closest thing, but
Your grades? Kind of the same thing. Your grades and what you your tests, that's true. And then rewards and recognition. Has anyone there ever gotten their name in the newspaper? That's always everybody's goal, to get their name in the newspaper for awards and for good grades. So we try to do the same thing here. We try to reward people for great work and recognize them for their contributions to the company. So that's company culture.
So now I'm going to just talk about various careers that are offered at Communicare. So kind of built this list based upon kind of the various components of Communicare. So the facility or center level, the division or regional level, and then corporate level. So each of our centers is operated by an executive director, and they are responsible for all day-to-day operations. They have to have a state license, and anything that, any decisions that are made when it's staffing, expenses, regulatory, it's all comes back up through the executive director. And they, like I said, they have to have a state license. They have a bachelor's degree in healthcare administration. Or, I have found that we have a lot of administrators who are social workers by their first entry, and they've gone on, they've worked as a social worker and decided to expand their career, and they've went on and gotten their operator's license. So that's a bachelor's degree. We have HR managers in each of our centers, and depending on the size of the center, they may just have HR duties and responsibilities, which would be recruitment and hiring of candidates, orienting them, making sure that all the new employee paperwork is completed. They also support with discipline investigations. They do different type of recognition activities. A lot of times the HR manager is that point person that if there's any concerns, feedback or support needed, they go to the HR person. They may not have all the answers, but they know a lot of the resources that are available. Again, that position is a bachelor's degree. We have admissions directors in all of our centers. An admissions director is, they are going to facilitate the transfer or the receipt of a new resident or patient. So ensuring that all the paperwork is completed, that the finances are taken care of, and just making sure that everything is ready. There's a bed available for that new patient or resident. Has a lot of responsibility, this position, because, transferring patients from, say a hospital setting to post-acute care, it doesn't always happen Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. So sometimes that occurs at 9 o'clock on a Saturday evening. So there has to be some flexibility with that position, may have some on-call, but that's another important position that provides, a significant impact to our patients. Of course, you automatically think of nursing. So we have 3 nursing positions, and those start with a certified nursing assistant or a CNA. You have to have a high school diploma. And this is a CNA course. that is regulated by the state, but it's an 8-week course that includes classroom work as well as clinicals. This is a great way to kind of get your foot in the door to see, do I want to continue with a nursing career, or, is being a certified nursing assistant, really want to do because I get to provide that direct patient care and provide those, daily type activities for our residents and patients, making sure that their water pitcher is always filled, that, that their hygiene, their grooming is taken care of, that they're being bathed, and all of those things, and providing that love and compassion. One thing I forgot to mention too, so at Communicare, we hire individuals 17 years of age. So there are opportunities, to work, whether it's full-time or part-time, or what we have, it's called PRN. So that's kind of as needed basis. We do have to make sure that we operate within federal and state guidelines. So there are some positions, because maybe they have a little more risk than others, that 17-year-old minors cannot be employed in, but there are opportunities. So we also have licensed practical nurses, LPN, that is a diploma type program, typically a trade school. I believe Ben Franklin here locally is the LPN school. Previously, it was Garnet Career Center. And then registered nurse, or an RN. And so that can be a 2 or 4-year degree. In long-term care, if you're an RN or LPN, a lot of times you have a lot of supervisory responsibilities as well. So while you can provide direct patient care, you can also be like a department manager, or what's called a DON, which is the director of nursing. And they're the one that's really responsible for all of the nursing staff and nursing care provided. Some other support positions that we offer within the center level: maintenance technician. We have to have staff that can, perform electrical work, or, a pipe bust and we need to have that corrected, or, making sure that our fire alarms stay up to code and things like that, and that they're doing the regulatory checks. Activities director. That's the team. The activities director leads the team of activity aides. They plan and schedule events that go throughout the day. Each center has a calendar, and they post on a weekly or daily basis kind of everything that's going on. It could be, some type of Valentine's Day king and queen celebration. It could be bingo. It could be, coloring pages, because, we have patients that have varying capacity. So really these events have to be tailored to the patient population in general. I get real excited when I go to the centers and see what the activity teams are doing. They do a lot of decorations for different holidays. They also participate in the employee activities that the center is hosting as well for the employees. So they really have a lot of opportunity to be creative as well. And then environmental services. So that's housekeeping and laundry and dietary, all critical positions that need to stay filled. If we don't have folks preparing meals and cleaning linens and taking out the trash, we cannot care for our patients, and we cannot have patients within our center. So ensuring that we have the proper support for our center is really important as well. So a few other things through the Communicare, we have career advancement. So that's where I was talking about, regional and division positions and corporate. So Beth and I represent the regional or the division in the human resources department, but we also have legal and finance. What else do we have? Marketing. So a lot of other professional positions, typically requiring, a 4 or 2 year degree, depending on, what that level of position is. But, that grows. And as we continue to grow it within Communicare, maybe we're made aware of other opportunities in another division. So we have the Heartland division, or Previously, we had the Terrapins. So there's opportunity in other divisions as well. And then corporate. So corporate is typically, you'll hear people refer to the C-suite. So that's where, a lot of our VPs are, VP of HR, finance and revenue, legal, general counsel, our CEO, CFO. So a lot of opportunity for continued growth and advancement. So corporate, you're looking more systematic through the organization and, developing programs and processes and implementing things that's for everyone. So their responsibility is really operationally as well. So, while Beth and I are responsible for the region and the division, somebody that works at corporate is responsible for all of us. So really important responsibilities. Tuition assistance is available. So if you decide that, hey, I really am interested in being in healthcare, I think I would like to go back to school and be a registered nurse. There's tuition assistance available. We have program guidelines just to say, okay, let's make sure that you're a good student, that you're making grades, that are acceptable, that you're going to be successful in this program. And then also that this program supports kind of the vision and the mission of the organization. And then, a lot of times there's professional certifications and the organization will pay for you to obtain or take the certification exam. Like I said in my opening, I have a certification as a PHR. So that was something my previous employer, they invested in me and saw that I had the knowledge and the skills to take the exam. And so that's something that we do here as well. So I'm going to let Beth talk about the professional skills and why they're so important, in healthcare and here at CommuniCare.
And I think maybe right before we do that, I want to pause and see if students have any questions about any of the careers, or I know that was great tuition reimbursement or certification opportunities that your company offers. Any questions about any of that, students?
With all the careers,
Talk a little louder.
with all the careers, how do you move up to a higher position, more specifically?
Okay.
Like entry-level job after entry-level jobs.
So I think the beauty of an entry-level job is you're going in and you're looking for an employment opportunity. And at that point, you have the ability, because you're exposed to so many different things. And so, a lot of times you're looking at what fits my personal lifestyle or my family life, or what's my true interest. Do I like direct patient care, or do I like something that's a little bit more removed and maybe I work more directly with family members, or I have a family and I can only work Monday through Friday, or I have a family and I can only work the weekend because, I have small children and I stay at home. So really that exposure is what's really important once you kind of have that entry level position to see, okay, I'm really interested in helping others and providing resources and services. So I say to myself, maybe I want to be a social worker, because we have social workers that are here at all of our centers. And so they provide that support to our residents, especially those that may be getting discharged, so they can get the services, so they can sustain living at home. So maybe it's home health or transportation services to doctor's appointments and things like that. And like I said, a lot of our administrators were once social workers. So then they decided, okay, I'm interested in the operations piece of working at a long-term care center. So then they progressed to an ED or executive director. So that's just a little example or sample of how you can progress within the center.
All right, I do have some other questions. Some of my students don't want to ask themselves, so they wrote them down for me to ask for them. One, you mentioned social work. So one of the students was wondering, what's the starting pay in social work?
So all of our positions are different. And so we do kind of have a wage scale per se. But it depends on the level of education and experience. And then also the market, because depending on where you live and work, some areas have more competition. So the way that we respond to that competition is that we have competing wages and things like that. So I don't know exactly like what a start rate would be, but there is competition. That is a position that is sought after. There's not, this huge pool of social workers out there. And sometimes, when we have vacancies, we have to wait a little bit until we get somebody that is experienced and has a license.
Okay. And then a couple other questions that they wrote down. This is a class of cybersecurity. It's the class that we're in. So they're in their 4th year of computer science. So most of the things you're talking about are not necessarily what their interests are. Their main question was, sorry, I'm trying to look at this, was like, do you have like IT, computer science, any cybersecurity jobs? Would those be contracted out through other companies, or do you hire the employees directly through your company?
So we do have an IT team. Prior to the acquisition here at Stonerise, we had an IT team that was, kind of your help desk, your entry-level IT positions, granting access, and setting up laptops and PCs. But then, we had a lot of cyber protection. Our VP or CIO did audits and looked at, kind of the activity, ensuring that the firewalls were safe and that, outside entities could not invade that and things like that. So yeah, so those are services that were provided by Stonerise employees. And then the same thing with Communicare as well.
All right, that's it for now. They wrote some others down, but I'll wait and see if you guys touch
Okay.
on that before we ask them.
That was a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, those are all really, really good questions. And Ashley, going back to the question about how do you advance in the like in the company, are there things an employee can do, or are there characteristics that you look for when you look to promote an employee within your company?
Absolutely. So like Beth talked about, performance appraisals and kind of that ongoing coaching. So, when somebody is interested in advancement, that current or the manager that is potentially interviewing that candidate or employee will reach out. So having, a good performance evaluation, showing that you're a team player, that there's no, kind of coachings without improvement in the employee's file, eagerness and willingness in their current position to do other things, and to kind of take those opportunities when they present themselves. I think that, having good relationships with others within the center, kind of how Beth talked about, you may say, oh, I'm not going to put that reference on my application because maybe there was a negative experience. But, when we work in a kind of a small environment, word gets around, people have reputations. So making sure that, that you are adhering to the core values and supporting the mission and the vision. I personally can, talk about when I started at the hospital 20 years ago. I started out for a 6-week assignment my senior year of college and ended up staying 20 years. So, and advanced through various positions within the department. And I think that was my willingness to take on other opportunities, kind of get outside of my comfort zone. And I had great reporting relationships with those that I worked with.
All right, fantastic. Beth, I'll turn it back over to you for professional skills. Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to talk and I'll be brief because I know it's already 2:19, but one of the things that we've really talked a lot about is your reputation. How you treat one another as part of the culture. And one of the phrases that gets used most often in long-term care when we're talking about the residents and the patients that we care for is do unto others as you would want them to do unto you. And I know you've heard that before, and that's called the golden rule. But that is so important. And what we always tag on to it in health and long-term care is take care of these residents and these patients as if they are your grandmother, your mother, your grandfather, or your father, because they're someone's grandmother, grandfather, father, or grandfather. They belong to somebody. So take care of them like you would want someone else taking care of your family member. So that's just a skilled nursing thing that we say a lot. So professional skills, again, we talk about empathy, compassion, communication, teamwork, and commitment. Those are 5 of the really important ones. There are others, of course, but these are the top 5 that we've chosen. Putting yourself in someone else's shoes. But more than that, empathy really goes toward you empathize because you've been through that. You understand that pain. You understand what that family is going through. If you can't have empathy, you can at least have sympathy. You can at least feel for those people when they come through those doors, they're leaving their loved ones in your care. The same thing with your workplace, with one another. It's understanding the people that you work with. It's having compassion. And that's important. And communication, teamwork, and commitment. I know you know what those are. But here's the bottom line. You ask about advancement. I will tell you that most people advance not because of their knowledge about their jobs. They advance because of their attitude, their can-do attitude, the way they relate with other people. Because if you're going to move into supervision and management and upper level positions, you have to be able to be a part of a team. You have to be able to communicate well, and you have to have that empathetic and compassionate drive about you, because that's what's going to make you successful. So whether you're in cybersecurity or whether you're in healthcare, do unto others as you would have them do unto you is a perfect way to build your career. The other way to build your career is to incorporate these skills, no matter what kind of job you have. And I'll tell you, IT usually gets a reputation for not having some of these, but the people who grow and become leaders in IT have these particular professional skills. Okay, Ashley.
Okay.
So exceptional patient care, exceptional customer service for cybersecurity, caring for people, caring for other employees that you'll work with, other students there in your classroom now, start practicing it now, upholding the company culture and making it a good place to work. You've probably heard of the 100 best companies to work. These are some of the components that they have. It's that culture. It's that great work culture. It's treating their employees with love and with care, and treating them fairly and equitably, and paying them well, giving them great benefits, all those kinds of things. Promoting employee engagement. So one of the things that I will just mention, and then we'll move forward. The other employees, the other students that you are with, it makes things so much better if everybody's on the same page and have the same mission, vision, and values of your school, of the workplace. It's really important that everybody's rowing in the same direction, because if you have some people who are not rowing in the same direction, then you're probably not going to want them in your boat, right? So you have to just continue to be the one to just paddle on, encourage others, so that everyone can be moving in the right direction.
Okay. So did anybody say bingo? Did anybody bingo while we were doing our discussion?
Everyone has bingoed at this point. Yes.
Yeah,
that is
who was the
good.
first?
That's good.
Who was the first?
Oh,
Sean was the first.
Yeah.
excellent. Okay. Well, we will send some bingo prizes out to the school. So maybe if I can get the address from Olivia, we'll send those out. But so, okay, John, so you were the first one to bingo. You want to tell me which squares you marked off?
Yes, hold on. Let me erase them so that I can read them off. It was Stonerise,
Okay.
CMS, Heart, Family, and Healthcare.
Okay. So I want to ask you a couple questions. What do you remember about Stonerise?
All right, so Stonerise is the company that you guys, what was the word? Had the acquisition with,
Perfect.
correct?
We were the company before we were acquired by Communicare.
Yes.
Okay. CMS, do you remember a little bit about what we talked about with CMS? That's kind of a tough one.
CMS. I remember touching on it, but I don't remember exactly what CMS
So it's the
was.
Centers for Medicaid and Medicare Services. So it has to do with reimbursement and insurance and quality of care, some regulatory. Heart, that was your third one, right?
Yes, Heart was.
Okay.
Heart was. So basically, it also ties in with Family, which was the next one.
Mhm.
You said that a lot of the importance was having heart and having a good family environment and just like keeping it like on a personal level. And there's a lot of like it was also with empathy, which I had crossed off, and it was gonna be my second bingo, but I got them both at the same time. And like just having a personal feel with other clients and coworkers and stuff.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We say that's our core values, and you know, and it sums up what we do on a daily basis and how we interact. And then healthcare. I think that will say that's your freebie.
I wonder, what is healthcare?
So John was our first winner, but we will have prizes for everyone. So what other questions do you have for us?
I did have one. I did have one question. If you were to promote someone, what is like the number one of the skills that you went over? Which one would you say is the most important?
Gosh, that's a hard one. I don't know if I could narrow it down. What about you, Beth?
I would say drive. That someone has the desire to grow and to be creative and to make things better.
Good question.
So I'm guessing as supervisors, like if I were to in my future endeavors as supervisors, you guys see that above a lot of other things when you're promoting people and deciding.
A lot of times you can provide the knowledge, you know, but you know, you can't teach attitude and drive and commitment. Those are things that are kind of internally, that the composition of that person, while it can be motivated by external type things, but it's that innate desire. I think that is a quality that really shines through in somebody. So like, you know, when we have HR managers that are entry level, you know, seeing their willingness to take on other projects, to learn, that has a good attitude. And so you can see that these aren't always skills, you know, or the knowledge, but it's the how to behind it and the why.
Sorry, my computer almost died. I had to run and plug it in really quick. Did you have another question? I know some are written down there. Any others? Okay. I know you talked a lot about different skills and things for their future, which you just asked more about. And then you also mentioned that, you know, IT does not always have the best, I guess, reputation in terms of some of those personal skills and things. Communication skills. There we go. What would you recommend for students that are interested in cybersecurity or IT? What would you like in terms of communication? What could they do? Obviously, we have a class that didn't really want to talk in front of this. What would you recommend for them as you're seeing in IT?
Courage.
Okay.
Courage to speak up, to have communications and relationships. I think that's extremely important. A lot of folks who go into IT tend to be independent contributors,
Mhm.
which is great for some. Some people just need to keep their head down and program and stay clear and focused. So there is a space for that, but if you want to progress and grow in that career field, then you've got to, there's a book that's called Emotional Quotient, and I'm sure you guys have read it. It's Gorham is the author, and he speaks to, and you can actually take, this would be a great exercise for you guys. You take a quiz to find out where you are on the emotional quotient. Everybody knows what IQ is, but EQ is just as important.
Mhm.
And EQ actually measures your emotions, and your emotions have a lot to do with what I'm talking about, with your ability to handle your emotions and to communicate with others, and to be sure that you're relational as well. And those are the people who succeed.
Mhm.
Not people with high IQs, but people with high EQs.
Mhm. And two, I mean, and it's kind of an interdisciplinary type focus because, IT is not only speaking to IT people, they're talking to clinicians, finance, HR. And so being able to, kind of flip that switch from the technical skills needed to be able to communicate and understand what that customer needs from the IT team. I think every organization relies so heavily on their IT team. We recently went through a transition, and I mean, with our computer systems and everything. And I mean, we were calling them probably hourly because they have an expertise that is so unique. Not anybody can do it. So then being able to relate and communicate and provide direction to people throughout the entire organization too.
Perfect. Thank you. I love those responses. That was exactly what I think they needed to hear.
We can
that
see
was a
the
great
smile on
question.
your face.
I know, it's like, oh, I like this. One last question. This is more my question that you can hopefully help them with. I know your company obviously has IT, and you talked about the importance of firewalls and how all of that is very secure. Obviously you've both worked for other companies. What or where would you kind of suggest that they start looking one of these days? Because there's lots of IT jobs. Cybersecurity is harder to get started in, but where would be like good local companies to start with? So if they want to stay local, where would you kind of suggest that they begin, or how would you suggest that they begin that job hunt one of these days?
Well, I think that this is a great start, having different companies expose the students to the business and operations that they have. There's other things like medical explorers, or I think there might be like media explorers. So that's through the Boy Scouts of America, where they are host sites and you can learn about careers at individual businesses. But to say specifically here within our community, obviously here at Communicare, we have desktop analysts or desktop support positions. Like I said in my intro, I worked at CAMC. That's a growing organization. Healthcare really is an opportunity that's always going to be there, that's always advancing and changing, electronically. I mean, so many things has gone electronic. So much of our communication and publication and resources are electronic. So kind of maybe focusing on industries that you see that are growing and advancing and that are changing with technology. So healthcare is always a great place, no matter what the position is. And, while the world stopped with COVID, in healthcare, it did not. We continue to maintain operations on a daily basis, just as normal. So I would say healthcare as the primary. Beth, what would you say?
I would do a search for jobs on Indeed
Mm-hmm.
and see where people are hiring to right now.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about where your personal data lies, think about those industries like banking.
Mm-hmm.
That one scares me to death. Credit card companies always have a lot of IT folks.
Government.
Yeah, government is another place. But anywhere where But medical, we have a lot of information on people, a lot of PHI, a lot of things that are really important that we keep it secure. So we have a lot of focus on that. But I would do an Indeed search and put in that particular title and see what comes up, because I think you'd be surprised the vast array of companies that'll be hiring for that type of position.
Okay.
I'll
Perfect,
also
thank
add
you. I know-
into LinkedIn as well as Indeed. If, students might go ahead and start a LinkedIn profile and just start accumulating different relationships and different contacts, and you never know how those will pay off as well.
Or looking for internships.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Guys, any other questions? Oh, I thought you were raising your hand with a question. Got excited.
And
All right,
here
no,
we
I
were
think that's
afraid
all we
we
had.
couldn't fill them out.
I know, that's exactly what I had thought too.
You guys were awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you
Thank
guys.
you. It was a
Wonderful.
pleasure.
This was a great opportunity.
Thank you all so much, Ms. Whitehead's class. We appreciate your time. I really appreciate all of the great questions you all had. I know cybersecurity may not traditionally fit into healthcare, but like you saw,
Is that John? Thank you, John.
John was a star, but no, I mean, I think this is a great opportunity. Like you all have said, cybersecurity and IT, it's a growing need for healthcare. So it's kind of outside of the traditional norm, but I really appreciate Nitro, y'all's time and your attention. Ashley and Beth, thank you so much for your expertise and your time this afternoon. I really, really appreciate it. I am going to ask Beth if you could send me the title of that book you mentioned. I'll send it
Sure.
to Mrs. Whitehead just in case any of the students are interested in that.
It's fun.
And I think you're muted, but
I am. I'm sorry. They're making an
That's okay.
announcement. So
oh, you're fine. All right. Well, with that, I'll let everyone go, but thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon.
Thank you.
yes, thank you, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.